Welcome to It's Life Changing. I'm so excited today because I have a very special guest with me today. And today's lesson on life is post-traumatic growth and spirituality. I'm excited because she's going to share her testimony, okay? She's a woman who knows the definition of trauma because she's experienced it. I want to share a little bit of information about her before I completely introduce her. Sharon Elvira Flowers was born July 6, 1969 in East St. Louis, Illinois. She's the daughter of Johnny McCrae and Gladys McCrae. She's the second of 4 children. Ms. Flowers joined the U.S. Army in 1988, retired in 2008 after 20 years of faithful service to her country. She had an interest in psychology, which developed from her need to understand what was going on with her due to some sort of issues that were going on mental health-wise, some sexual trauma that she had experienced at a young age, and the combat trauma that she had suffered during the military service. The trauma left her with scars, mentally and physically. And as a result of the trauma, she developed some self-destructive behaviors that she was aware of. She struggled then through some alcohol, suicidal thoughts, several occasions, but God was very, very present in this woman's life. She was saved at the age of 30 in September 1999. She grew in her faith and developed an interest in Christian principles with psychology. In 2001, she, Dr. Flowers now, graduated with her undergraduate degree in psychology with a minor in sociology, and in 2007 with a master's in education, and then finally her doctorate in psychology in 2014. In 2012, Evangelist Flowers, also evangelist, late husband Bobby Booth was murdered in Fayetteville, North Carolina. God had allowed her to endure the loss, yet hold on to God's unchanging hands. God had equipped her to minister to those who had suffered a loss as well and struggled to move through. She then started mentoring other young women in her community, incorporating those principles of Christianity, and was involved with the New Direction Church in South Carolina, working with a group called Widows Connected, in which she now teaches widows who are going through similar situations. She's currently preparing to present workshops at the Fayetteville Technical Community College on post-traumatic growth, trauma, and Christian spirituality. She's currently working on a new book. We're going to save that title so when she gets out, it'll be hers, which focuses on psychological struggles of trauma and healing using biblical principles. That's so awesome. She's now married to retired, I'm going to say SGM, Sergeant Major Nathaniel Flowers, and together they have 8 wonderful children. 8, okay? And just out of honor, we're going to say their names: Nathaniel Jr., Felicia, Nikisha, Fernandez, Stephen, Dontel, Gabriella, and Kendall. Right? Yes. Okay, I'm so excited. A true survivor. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Evangelist Sharon Flowers. That was a lot, wasn't it?
It was a lot.
You know, putting your life on paper is interesting always, right?
It is always interesting.
But you know what? God's not through yet, right?
He's not.
He has so much work for you to do. I'm so honored to have you with me on the show today to talk about post-traumatic growth and spirituality. And I know that a lot of people are still trying to understand or wrap their minds around that because they hear about PTSD, they hear about trauma. Obviously, we know about spirituality. But what is post-traumatic growth?
Post-traumatic growth is the positive psychological aspect of growing after trauma.
Okay.
What I found in my research and actually with dealing with people, the negative, but nobody focuses on the positive. Mm-hmm. What happens after they have those negative experiences?
Exactly.
Is there growth in the aftermath? Mm-hmm. And there is. Yes. And so what I wanted to do was to be able to share that. You don't have to stay traumatized.
Yes.
You may still have some of the psychological impacts from time to time, but you can move forward in your life in positive ways and do great things.
Exactly. My kind of person. Yes. You know, I believe in that, okay? You can get through it. I love that. Okay. So how has this helped you? Now, you know, having read your bio, you've been through a lot, you've had to experience a lot of things. How have you used the post-traumatic growth and spirituality in your own life to sort of pull you to where you are, the beautiful professional, married again, children, family, sort of a story of Job, you know, sort of coming full circle. You know, here you are today. How has it helped you to get here?
Well, one of the things that I did do, and of course this had to be God, when I started on my doctorate, I was going to focus on PTSD.
Okay.
And just happens to get a great mentor who said, why don't you focus on the positive side because you're doing some great things.
Yes.
And she said, well, why don't you do a heuristic study using yourself in the study? Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, that means I'm going to have to share
I know.
my personal life. And that's what I did. And in that, the healing began.
Yes.
And so when my late husband Bobby was killed, even the more so I saw why God had me to do this.
Yes.
And so I had a choice. I can look at all the negative things that happened to me in life, or I could say, you know what, God, there has to be greater.
Yes.
There has to be more.
Yes.
And so instead of continuing the self-destructive behaviors, I decided I'm going to do something positive with my life, and I'm going to share it with everyone else.
I love that. I love that. What made you decide that this was going to work for someone else? Like, I'm gonna couple the post-traumatic stress research with the post-traumatic growth with the spirituality. What made you say, this is a combination, I want to share this with others?
Well, what I did, especially in Fayetteville, I was able to find 10 other veterans. I started with the veteran community.
Okay.
I was able to find 10 veterans who were doing really well.
Okay.
And the need for them to share their struggles of what they went through and how they were able to make it over. But the one thing that they were missing, they were saying, well, how do you continue on this process? Mm-hmm. And as I tell them, post-traumatic growth is not something that you reach an end to.
Yeah, you arrive. You don't arrive.
You don't arrive. It's something that you work at every day.
It's a journey.
Continuously. Mm-hmm. And so I found those veterans when I did my research and was able to help them actually plug back in and to get some more things done. The one thing that they share with me is that they believe that pastors, counselors really need to have this information, because of course we know that the Veterans Administration, they offer CBT therapy.
Yes.
But spirituality is not always included.
A component, unless it comes from that person.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so what they want is someone to advocate.
Exactly.
Let's include spirituality in what I need.
It's all that's in the AA program.
Yeah, and they need it.
So people need this. It's a huge component. It's an important component of growth, period. But definitely, if you're even going to understand how to be a part of the post-traumatic growth, then you have to understand that you're going to need something sometimes bigger than yourself to get through that.
Yes.
How do we get people to move from sort of that trauma mindset? We talked about the people who are already there. So those are people who are like, okay, I'm doing better. And sometimes I don't think they know that they're different. And so how do we get people who don't know to move from this traumatic experience, I'm feeling traumatized, to a mindset of post-traumatic growth? This is where I need to be.
One of the things that I always tell people is never to minimize the trauma.
Okay.
What happened to you, and it's real. Mm-hmm. And we don't deny that.
Yes.
But it happened to you, and it's in the past. And so that doesn't mean that you're not going to have some of the psychological scars, because you still will have those psychological scars. Mm-hmm. But you have to look at the whole situation and say, hey, what am I going to do today? Okay. Am I going to look at the glass as being half empty, or am I going to look at it as being half full?
Exactly.
And so until you change that mindset, and that's what I usually tell them, we have to change the mindset.
It's important.
And once you change that mindset, then we can move forward. And so it's a process to get that mindset changed, because the first thing that, especially when you're dealing with veterans, or i.e. if you're dealing with someone that's in the church.
Yes.
A lot of times people will sit in the church with mental health issues and things going on, but my faith is not strong enough. That's why I'm not, getting better. Mm-hmm. Well, no, you need something outside of yourself, and you also too may need therapy.
Exactly.
And so this is the component. It all works together.
Exactly.
Instead of separate.
And it bothers me when people feel like they have to choose, especially when it comes to our religious or spiritual community, that you have to choose prayer versus going to counseling. You don't have to choose. We're telling you that we want you to have that and then some, that you need to make sure that you're praying, yes, and utilizing your faith in your faith community, as well as some of those psychological resources, but also do your own research. And so that you also have just community resources, support groups and those type of things. One of the things that is just so key and why I do this show is to educate people. And I know that's one part, because the other part I always say, change your mindset, change your life. When you change your mindset, the way you think about things, it just changes your whole perspective about life and how you can do. And you'd be amazed how much energy you can get, how creative you become when you change that mindset. Because when you change your mindset, things begin to fall into place. Things begin to change in your life, because you start to feel better about yourself. You start to feel what? Hope. Okay, and that's what we want. And you're stepping on a little bit of my next topic, which was the aftermath, which I'm going to talk about in just a few minutes. But Dr. Flowers, this is something that people really need to know about, and that's why I'm excited that you're here, because so many people are standing, sitting, sleeping in their trauma. Many of them don't even know that they're carrying it around with them. And obviously we can talk about things from wars, things that are going on in Baltimore, things that are going on in our world, but some of it is right in your backyard. Some of it is in your house.
Yes.
Some of it is with relatives. Some happened when you were a child. Some is still happening as an adult. But trauma is all around you. But how you deal with it is so key. Post-traumatic growth and spirituality. Is there anything else that you'd like for folks to know, just to encourage them, just as we leave them with how to sort of overcome that trauma or get past letting it sort of control their life?
Yes, one of the things that I want to encourage people to do is not only, if your pastoral counseling is not enough, seek therapy. Because I honestly believe that therapy, the pastors, the community that you're in, as long as it's positive, you're going to move forward.
Exactly.
But don't sit in that ball and sit in the church and die.
Exactly.
Because you're not getting the help that you need. And so one of the things that I want them to do, reach out. Mm-hmm. Reach outside of yourself. Get with someone else that knows how to move forward so that you can start moving forward.
Yeah. And that's so important, because sometimes, we're not talking about dying physically, but you can get into this world where you feel like no one understands, no one's there for you, and you die from the inside out. And that's just very, very sad, very depressing. And we don't want you to live that life. This show it's life changing, and we want you to change your life, and we want you to understand post-traumatic growth. Is there any information you'd like to leave with them, how to reach you if someone wants more information or resource?
They can call me. My cell phone number is 910-916-6838, or they can email me at seflowers@icloud.com.
Okay, that's wonderful. Give her a hand. You've done an awesome job, Dr. Sharon Flowers. Thank you for watching It's Life Changing. We'll be right back. It's now time for me to speak into your life. You know, sometimes I like to title these. And with Dr. Flowers and I talking about this post-traumatic growth and spirituality, God gave me a word for someone out there, and I want to share this. So I titled this, The Aftermath of Destruction. And you know I like my 3 points. So I have 3 points for you again today. The first point is, embrace the aftermath. It is what it is. It happened, okay? Let the pieces fall as they may, okay? That's what happens after destruction. It is what it is. It happened. Don't try to deny it. Don't try to suppress it. Don't try to put things behind you and say, I'm just not going to deal with it. It doesn't work that way. In order to move forward, you have to understand what has happened. You have to go into these things with your eyes wide open, not closed. Like I always say, you can't put the bills back in the mailbox. That does not mean that they still won't need to get paid, okay? The bill collectors are still looking for their money. I want you to understand that you can get through this. This is the aftermath. I need you to understand the destruction. Number 2, it's time for you to rebuild. Some of you are looking at your old house and you want the exact old house that you had. No, you are a new person. You are not the same person that you used to be. You are a survivor today. No matter what you've been through, whatever your trauma was, you've been through it. You're a new person. You can't go back and get the same house that you had before. You can think about rebuilding that same house, but you're not even the same person. You are a person who's been through some stuff. No matter what your trauma is, you are stronger, you are better. Post-traumatic growth means you don't see yourself as a weaker link. You don't see yourself as a weak person. You don't see yourself as what has happened to me. You see yourself as a person who has made it through some stuff. And because you've made it through some stuff, you are a new person. And so I'm encouraging you today to rebuild something new, something fabulous, something fierce, something that encompasses all of who you are. Not just your old you, but the new you. Okay, I want you, number 3, to reinvent yourself. Okay, that doesn't mean you have to be a totally new person. You have to change all your clothes, all your hair, and all that. But we're talking about the real you. Maybe you used to be a nice person. Okay, you still are a nice person, but nobody's going to take advantage of you now because you're stronger. Maybe you used to give from your heart everything that you got. You can still be a giver, okay? But watch how much you give and who you give it to. Maybe people used to feel like they could step over you, okay? Just do all sorts of things to you. But I want to encourage you, that's not happening today, okay? Because it's time for you to take the reins on your life. It's time for you to reinvent yourself. Include all of those things that make you fabulous. Stop looking at yourself like a person who is down, a person that's weak. It's time for you to rebuild and reinvent. Last thing I want to say to you is learn how to love you. When I look in the mirror, because of everything that I've been through, and people have heard me say this over and over again, I love me, okay? And I don't say that to be as a bad thing. I need you to look in the mirror and say, I love me, because it is what I've been through that makes me who I am. Let me say it again. It is what I've been through that makes me who I am. So today, as we talk about post-traumatic growth, we're talking about what you've been through. It makes you stronger. It makes you better, okay? It is everything that I am today. All of this voice, all of this passion, all of this comes from the struggles. And through the struggle, you are stronger. Thank you so much for watching this Life Changing. We'll be right back. It's now time for our community resources. I'm so excited to have a special guest back with me, Mr. Jet Johnson. He's going to introduce himself a little bit more, and we're going to have a conversation about truly being healthy. Because like I said before, I want you to love you because you're worth it. Mr. Jet Johnson, welcome back to the show.
Absolutely, thank you for having me.
Of course. Now tell me your title again.
So I am the program manager for Healthy People, Healthy Suffolk, and I work for the Suffolk Partnership for a Healthy Community. I grew up in Suffolk.
Okay.
We're partnered with the OPC Healthcare Foundation, and so we have ties all throughout the community to really make an impact.
Yes, and you are, because I hear about it all the time. It's like this long name that sort of just goes together. Now, what are some of the things that you're trying to do? What are the goals of the program?
Sure. So the Suffolk Partnership in general is just anything health related that's going to better the community.
Okay.
We're doing as much as we possibly can.
Of course.
My job through Healthy People, Healthy Suffolk is more of a long-term bringing down the obesity numbers in Suffolk. We have an obesity epidemic. It's 33% of our population. Up to 66% is overweight. So we're trying to target those numbers and bring them down, work with other organizations, and be that collaborative effort that really brings everything together.
I love that. I love that. And one of the reasons I think that people are dealing with a lot of that, obviously I'm on the mental health side of the sort of physical component that's happening, is I find when people have post-traumatic growth issues, or I should just say traumatic issues or mental health issues, sometimes they fall into really bad habits. And I don't think that many people understand that they fall into those habits, that they're eating more, that they're eating all sorts of bad things, that they're having cravings for things that they don't really want, but they want more of it. And so I know that Suffolk is doing a huge sort of effort to reduce obesity and make our families more healthy. I love in the summer, especially seeing people walk in, their t-shirts on, and all those different efforts that are happening. Do you guys have some efforts that are going on this summer as well?
Absolutely. There's a few things that I wanted to touch on, of course. We have a lot of things going on. Unfortunately, like I said, we're partnered with the OPC Healthcare Foundation for my job, but they've also, this past October, awarded us a grant through our Suffolk on the Move initiative, another name to throw in there. But we have somebody who works on staff, and specifically their job is to get out and get people walking and get people moving. And so they've gotten into 17 businesses, 8 schools, and 6 churches.
That is awesome.
And what they've done is set up programs just to get people up and moving, get people up and walking, and really inspire people to do that extra step every day.
And can I say this too? Don't forget what you're going to say. Understand that there is something about depression and other things that happen to people. It doesn't matter if you understand it and then do it, which we call cognitive behavioral. So sometimes you think it and then you do. Your thinking affects your behavior. But sometimes you just need to do and understand that doing affects your thinking. So if you actually start moving, it actually helps you to feel better. Okay, and there's lots of research behind. You don't have to understand it. You don't have to, the goal does not have to be lose weight. The goal should always be anyway, just to be healthier. But just start doing. So I love that on the move thing. Okay.
Absolutely. And so I was going to say, we have this person on staff where if your church, if your organization, if your business, wants to get people up and moving a little bit more. We have someone that can come in, coordinate, collaborate with you, and get something going. We've worked with one of the biggest businesses here in Suffolk, Birds on Peanuts. We've worked with them. They have a great program going, and they do little things like, for instance, right now, they're inspiring their employees to walk 5,000 to 6,000 steps a day.
Wow.
2 to 3 miles a day, but in an office setting, that's really asking a lot. So if they do that every day and they sign up for a week, then we have the funding to go in and offer incentives. It can be gift cards to local restaurants, to local stores, that kind of thing. So it inspires people and pushes people to do that extra step every day.
Hey, and who wouldn't want to get up and move around?
Exactly.
Okay, I like it. Okay, all right.
So some of the other things we have going on, a big push that we're doing right now is gardens. As you know, getting out and working in a garden can do all sorts of things.
It's very therapeutic. I've been out in the yard a lot.
And so we have community gardens, school gardens. We've actually just recently hired a part-time staff of 5 people who can go out in the community and get into these gardens and really train people to push them and get them going. And then all the food ends up going back into the community. So we get fresh fruits and vegetables out in the community. We're also working in backyards to get people to start backyard gardens. So then it
Can you come to my house and we can do a backyard garden?
Maybe we can talk after.
Okay, all right.
Figure it
Okay,
out.
just to check it. Okay.
And so there's lots of little things where we're really getting
that.
people out in the open, trying to push them out to get moving in the summer and really push to help the health of the community.
I don't know if people know how huge that is, but it's becoming such a popular thing that people are actually trying to do that in a lot of the inner cities. I've seen and working with people across the country, actually because, and sometimes in the inner city there's not a whole lot of gardens.
Sure.
And we find that it's a way to take a little piece of heaven into that community, and they work with some of the kids and they get the parents and the communities working together. And usually it just starts with like one person with a good heart, and they'll start at their house, and then they start creating these gardens, and then people start doing them all over the city. And it's sort of becoming this thing where it catches on, because not only does it help that person or a child, but it creates this community, this sense of community, this sense of we're helping one another, plus you're giving back to the community by actually giving away what you grow.
Absolutely, and I think that plays in, so talking about my job for a second with helping people out in Suffolk plays into what we're aiming to do is make that cultural shift, is to really make it something the community embraces. And so we're working this year to push for policy change and practice change throughout all sectors. And so we're doing little things like working with the library came to us, and they have a summer reading program for kids. They have over 1,000 people sign up for it, and they count the number of pages read, activities, that kind of thing. And they said, why can't we push for health in this as well? And that's all it took. And we had one meeting, and now we're going to be able to track steps for kids, how much activity they get. We're going to be able to offer health classes, education, and if we start to do that throughout the entire community, and we start, our city starts thinking about that, and our local governments start thinking about that, it can really make a change that could change the entire population.
Exactly, and those are the changes that I talk about being a psychology professor. Some of my students have a quiz they're working on right now, which is how to make those huge changes that sometimes seem really huge, but how to do it realistically. Exactly. How do we make change so that people deal with life differently? And so this is one of those ways. And so I'm glad that you're in this position to sort of, because it starts with one person to sort of do some of this changing. And obviously I know you have a team of people, but it still takes really good people with the mindset to make change across the cultures, across the cities, so that we all need this change. Sure. All of us need to make these changes in our lives and in our lifestyles, because that's when it catches on. Okay, we can't keep it just here. Staying. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And if we get the right people engaged, I think we can really make the big changes that we're shooting for, and bringing down those obesity numbers, and bringing down the diabetes numbers, and that affects health across the board. So.
You will. I believe that you will. Are there any other resources that you'd like to add, or as far as contact information that you'd like to give out to folks?
I think in general, our website's a great place to go. It's suffolkpartnership.org. You can always also reach us by email, which is info@suffolkpartnership.org. If you're interested in the community garden, interested in getting people engaged in your business, interested in just getting people up and moving, we can always be a sounding board to at least get that started.
So you guys will go out, do speaking engagements or those type of things?
We'll do anything.
That's awesome. You hear that? They'll even come to my house and put a garden in. We'll do anything. You said that on TV.
We'll see.
Okay, we'll see. Thank you so much, Mr. Jet Johnson. Give him a hand. Thank you again for being here with us. Thank you again so much for watching It's Life Changing. I wish you so much happiness in your life. Stay healthy, and we'll be having Mr. Johnson back again to talk about some different initiatives. And if you need more information, please go to the website. God bless you. I'll see you next time.